So let's get into the nuts and bolts of the specific behaviors of managers, leaders, and followers. And with that, we're going to start with managers. So managers create an environment that support lead followers in making the right choices. And if I was to ask you what are the three behaviors of a manager, I wonder how many of you could get it right, because I have purposefully over this lesson and the last said these three behaviors a minimum of 9 times. Go back and count them if you don't believe me. I've said them 9 times. Anyone catch them? What are the behaviors of a manager? The first one is to set and communicate a clear desired end state. Remember I said that managers direct action, right? My job as an officer in the SEALs was to direct the action of my leaders. So we've used the word desired end state multiple times in here, and within these desired end states, we'll get into the specifics of desired end states here in a second. So what we mean by desired end state is a description of the future that exists once we're successful. And my job, my primary behavior as a manager is to ensure that everyone understands why we're doing something, right? A desired end state is that answer, right? Why are we doing this? We're doing this to produce this future. And whys are so much more powerful than what to do or how to do it. Because the what and the how is the domain of the leaders and the followers. The why is the domain of the manager. The second thing, right? So direct action. The next thing is to support action, right? So enable and support their leaders. And what I mean by enable and support is to make sure that they have all the resources, the knowledge, the information, the training, the support, the money, the authority, the responsibility necessary to take effective action. So it's my job to understand what actions they need to take well enough that I can make sure that they have all of the resources necessary to do it. So just because you're a manager doesn't mean you get out of understanding the nuts and bolts of the actions necessary. It's just not your job to do them. But to enable your leaders to do them, you have to understand them, because you're going to need to understand what support, what resources, what authority they need. And the last one is the most important one. It's the one that I've never had someone guess from scratch, and that is be the safety net in case of failure. Why this is so important is if I'm going to be an effective manager, I very well might not be with my leaders when they're taking action. Right? Remember, my job as a manager is to direct them, give them the reason why we're doing it, make sure they have all the resources and authority and training to do it, and then let them go. At best I get to follow them along, but ultimately I might not. And if that's the case, the only way I could possibly sleep at night is to know that my lead followers out there charging into danger are safe if something goes wrong. Right? So being a safety net in case of failure can feel one of two ways. Right? When done ineffectively, it feels like a straitjacket where you're just bound up. When done effectively, being a safety net in case of failure feels like a warm embrace. It feels like no matter what I do, my manager has my back. If I get into trouble, they're going to be the first person I call. I know that if I stray off course, they're going to have something in there, some left or right limit that I'm going to be able to bounce off of and not cause trouble to myself, to someone else, or to the organization. Being that safety net in case of failure on the manager side is ultimately, when you look at these, see how selfless they are, right? Set and communicate a clear desired end state for your lead followers. Enable and support for your lead followers. Right? Being a safety net in case of failure, yes, it is for your lead followers, but more importantly, it's for myself so I can sleep at night. Right? When my leaders are off charging hard, getting stuff done, I want to be able to go to sleep. And the only way I can do that is to make sure that I've looked ahead and made sure that if they stray off course, they're not going to run into any major problems. Managers create the environment that supports lead followers in making the right choices. And the way we do that is make sure they understand why we're doing something and what future we want to create, to be able to know what to do by having the knowledge, the resources, and the authority or responsibility to do it, and making sure that they're safe when they go out to take action. These behaviors are critical in any role as a manager. As a family, right? Being in a family, as the father, I truly believe that my primary role, behaviors that I need to be able to fulfill as a father, is to make sure that my children know why they need to do what they need to do, and they actually believe it and want it as well. To make sure that I keep them enabled to take action, that they're trained, they learn, they practice their skills in a safe environment, they gain the experience they need, to make sure they have the resources, the information, the knowledge, the responsibility, and most importantly, I want to keep my family safe, right? Not having these roles fulfilled, just being a leader, just being in there in action with my boys, and not stepping back and looking at these things can cause dysfunction in a family, just like it would cause dysfunction in any team.